Good evening, parents, or could be good morning, could be just about any time that you're watching this. But anyway, this screencast is going out to parents of eighth graders. Before you know it, this is December right now when I'm recording this, the end of December, probably early January when it's being watched. And before you know it, students will already be scheduling for the upcoming school year. And it seems sometimes incredibly early to be playing with something like that at this time. But that's really very normal in the process that January is scheduling time for the next year, and people come back from Christmas and bam, it comes fast. So anyway, the eighth graders will be doing a little prep work for that. The eighth graders are doing some prep work the first week back from January, and then once again later, and then finally on January 28th, they'll actually be entering their course request for the coming school year. So this screencast is intended to inform parents as much as possible of anything that they might need to know if they want to help their students in their process. Again, students will be very, very informed. There's not really a worry about that. But if you want to have input and you want to look forward, sometimes even looking forward to the full gamut of high school out 4 years, and you want to sit with your student and go through things, this screencast will give you all the information you need from that. There'll also be a couple of attachments that will be sent home your way that again can be helpful in that regard. So I'm going to start out today. Just going to start out with this screencast talking about the high school day. Not a whole lot different than the public uh, eighth grade school day, but there are some nuances and probably a decent amount different than the parochials in that we're on what's called trimesters in high school. And trimesters are very similar to what's happening in the public school and middle school right now. Classes are over an hour long. Ours are 68 minutes, and there's about 5 during the school day. So as you can see, the schedule is on the screen right now. The schedule that has your school day put forth for you, and like I said, very similar to the eighth grade, but there is one big difference. One big difference outside of the fact that you can take more electives in high school. But one big difference in a high school day is you have trimesters, and you're always going to get every required class twice during the year. So seeing we have 3 different grading periods, trimester means 3, seeing we have 3, 1/3 of the year you're going to have off in almost any class. The one exception is band and chorus, that runs all year long, but otherwise any other class that you're going to have is going to have a time off. So if you look at English here, English for instance, that student has English first trimester, then third trimester, no second trimester in English in between. This particular student has algebra second and third. The math class goes second, third. So the first 12 weeks of school, no math for that particular student. So every student is going to have one trimester off of just about every class they have. And I know people have asked questions in the past. Well, does that work? Is that bad? I mean, what about something like foreign language or Spanish or algebra? Can you take 12 weeks of algebra, then have 12 weeks off and jump back in? And to be honest, we haven't found any problem. I mean, if you look globally, our overall test scores and things like that, our test scores have fared very well even with this format. It's a very good flow of the school day. Students have 5 things to worry about instead of 8. It's a little bit less stressful from their standpoint. There are some imperfections with it, like having 12 weeks off in algebra, possibly even in between semesters. But those things don't seem to have really moved the needle in any negative way. But anyway, that's your school day. Much different than even eighth grade public. They have long blocks like this, but they would have algebra all year long. So a student taking algebra in eighth grade would get it every single day all year long for 75 minutes. We get it 2/3 of the year for 68 minutes. So learning goes a little bit faster here. They get a little bit more time for rep down in the eighth grade level. So anyway, that's a quick shot of what our school day looks like. Some other things you might wanna talk about before we get into the courses themselves. Probably want to talk about the graduation requirements in high school, possibly even college's requirements and what they need. So we're gonna scoot up a little bit on this document, on this handout that actually you got sent to you too in an attachment. But if we If we slide up a little bit, the graduation requirements are going to be very, very near the top on the first or second page of this entire document. Graduation requirements for our high school are going to be very, very similar from school to school. So we're not going to be much different. The state actually sets guidelines, and almost every school follows them to a T. But anyway, if you want to see the grad requirements, they're right here right here early in the document. And for all of years 2021 till the graduates of 2025, the graduation requirements are here. We need 4 years of math, 3.5 of social studies, we need 4 years of English, 3.5 of social studies, 3 of math, 3 of science, 1.5 of Phy Ed, and that's pretty much along lines of the state guidelines. So it's going to be pretty much the same everywhere. But anyway, those are our 4-year grad requirements in case that's worth knowing. Sometimes students like to map out a 4-year plan as an 8th grader right away, as a map out a 4-year plan that'll say, I want to do this freshman year, this sophomore year, this junior year, this senior year. Knowing the graduation requirements helps in that regard. So we do have that document that does help a little bit. We also, if you want to do a 4-year plan, one thing we're doing with the students is we're jumping on a place called Zello, and on Zello, you can go into on Zello. We can they have set up very nicely with all of our course descriptions and everything like that. And they have a nice little format here that I'm pulling on the screen where a student can pull up their freshman year classes, their sophomore year classes, their junior year classes, and senior year classes. Now, this particular student on the screen happens to be a senior, and because of that, the grades are already populated. Zello interacts with our Skyward system. And so the classes that have not been completed do not have grades on. So this particular student has AP Psych coming up and Human Anatomy coming up that don't have grades in yet. But this is a nice place to do a 4-year plan electronically. Legally, we have to do that. The state says we have to have an electronic plan on file. Your student will be doing that in January. And we pretty much mandate that students look out 2 years, look out freshman and sophomore year. But if they want to do the full gamut and go junior and senior year, that's fine. But it is pretty sweet to go on here because everything's linked. If you click on a class, as you're trying to put stuff in here, it'll come up with the course description of that class and everything else that you would need for that. So it'll tell you the prerequisites, what you need for that, everything for. So anyway, Zello is a good place because it's electronic. If you want a paper copy, if you say, I'm old school, sometimes I like things on paper. Say, hey, I like something I want to mark up. I want to have something by my side. I want the course list by my side and mark it up with by hand. We do have that in this curriculum supplement that got sent to you in an attachment. So you got that too. So anyway, so that's it. We went over a little bit in terms of what are the high school requirements to graduate. Then we're going to go through I'm going to talk a little bit about college requirements because people ask about that. Hey, as I'm looking forward, what might colleges need? The truth with that is colleges need about 50. The typical college needs about 15 academic units. By academic units, that is encompassed by English, math, science, social studies, and foreign language. Those are your areas that will encompass. So you need 15 by the time you graduate. So essentially about 4 a year. You can get away with maybe junior, senior, you're only taking 3 in that regard. At most colleges, you were talking Stevens Point, Oshkosh, etc. Now, again, that's generally the minimum. Not hard to get. We mandate you take 13 and a half. So to get to 15 is not that hard in the big scheme of things. You have to get 1.5 more academics to be pretty safe at your typical school. Now, as I say that, I'm saying typical school going forward. Students listening to this or parents have students who are 13, 14 years old. You don't know where you're going to end up. The more competitive schools, the more rigorous colleges out there, the UW-Madisons or some out-of-state schools, they're going to expect you to take more than that. They don't even list their minimum requirements. They list their typical admitted students, and they list how many academic units they get. So anyway, 15 is the minimum for your typical college. If you want to go somewhere more competitive, you're going to want more and more and more. of academic stuff. And of course, at those schools, then you have to do very well. To be honest, the number of academic units aren't going to matter unless you are doing well. Madison, for instance, has a 3.9 average GPA of incoming freshmen. So if you have a B- average and you're worried about getting enough academic units from Madison, don't worry about that. Worry about getting your B- up to a 3.9, which is basically straight A's. And that comes first. So the other thing with College Bowl worthwhile talking about, and I also have that in the curriculum supplement, is foreign language requirements at the college level. Now, foreign language requirements at the college level sometimes get a little bit tricky. There's maybe a myth out there that you have to have 2 years of foreign language to go to college. Absolutely not correct. The truth is, in the state of Wisconsin, there's only one school that has any foreign language requirement. That is UW-Madison. They require 2 years of foreign language to get in. The other 12 schools do not have a foreign language requirement to get in the door. They do, however, some of those schools may have a situation where they say if you don't take it in high school, you need to take it at college. There's 3 of those schools in the system. So of the 13 schools in the system, 4 schools have somewhat of requirement in the foreign language realm. Either in high school or you got to take it there. Again, only one school needs you to take it to get in the door, and 9 of those schools do not have a foreign language requirement whatsoever. Okay, now that's not to say I'm bashing on foreign language and saying it's not important. I'm just telling you exactly what the requirements are at the schools, at least in the UW system. So over 90% do not have that requirement. There are still some advantages. We talked about that 15 academic units earlier. 15 academic units. To get to that 15, foreign language can be a part of that. So if you knock off 1 or 2 years of foreign language, that counts as part of your 15 at your typical colleges. Also, foreign language is a way to get something called retroactive credit, which I'll explain in just a minute about how retroactive credit may work and benefit somebody if they want to use foreign language in that way. Okay. Next thing I want to say is coming into freshman year, you're going to have to take, if we go back to that grid you had earlier with the freshman schedule, it was 3 by 5, three trimesters, 5 hours each time. So there are 15 boxes to fill in, 15 half credits. There's a page right at the beginning of this curriculum supplement with your course offerings that list every single course in the building of Brilliant High School. And we offer quite a bit for a small school. So right here's our course offering page. And this is the page that you would probably use the most to help your student with as they pick their 15 half credits. Fill up those 15 boxes. So as you do that, notice on the screen, some of these things are going to say 1 credit. Some of these things are going to say, some of these things will say 1 credit. Some of these things will say a half credit. That's worth noting because if it says 1 credit, for instance, in science, your student will have to take 1 credit of Foundations of Science. 1 credit means you fill up 2 boxes. Every half credit, like FIAD's only 1 box, every half credit fills in a box. So by the end of the year, you have 15 boxes filled. Everyone's worth a half credit. So you can have 7.5 credits at the end of freshman year. So remember, you got to fill in 1 box for every half credit as you're patching your projected schedule in there. Every 1 credit class happens twice. Every half credit class only happens once. So hopefully that makes sense. This page, I think, is probably the best and most helpful page that you can use for that. Okay. The next thing I'm going to mention is sliding down a little bit. There are ways. First of all, on this course offering page, there are some things on there you might say, what does that mean? And I'm going to cover that right now. What does that mean? There's a little line here that says weighted course, and there's a little asterisk. If there's an asterisk by the course that you're taking, like up here I'm looking at AP English Language, and there's an asterisk. What that means is that that course is weighted. What weighted means is they give you a little bit more credit, a little bit more weight, and they give you 1 extra point on your GPA for taking one of those tougher, more rigorous classes. It's just kind of a reward for taking something that's tougher and more rigorous. So if you take, as you see on the screen, if you go up here to Spanish 3 and 4, or AP English or those things, they have the asterisk, they get that extra bump. So if somebody's taking Spanish 4 and another student is taking basic foods, that student, if they get the exact same grade, that student in Spanish 4 will bump up a little bit higher on the class rank because of that. So that's what weighted means. There's a transcripted credit down here. I'm going to get to that in a second. That's a college credit and high school type thing. Advanced standing is the same. And there's a little thing called P for prerequisite. That obviously means, I think most people would know that you have to have something before it before you can take that class. So you see these P's by Spanish. Obviously, Spanish 2, the prerequisite is you have to take Spanish 1. That's pretty much pretty basic. Construction 2 over here, the P, I'm sure you would find out that for this P that you have to take construction 1 before construction 2, and that's how that would work. So those are a couple notes worth knowing. And another thing that I do want to draw out as you look forward to the future is there are several ways that a person can get college credit while they're still in high school. There's actually 4 different ways that a person can get college credit while they're still in high school. So I'm going to touch those just so you know how the whole game works. Students looking out long term. So we have something called CAP courses, and it's all described in this booklet. CAP means Cooperative Academic Partnership Program. We have a partnership with UW Oshkosh. You take the class here at Brillion, you get Brillion credit and UW Oshkosh credit at the exact same time. You do have to pay a little bit for that, but what you pay here is about a 70% discount to what you would pay at Oshkosh. For instance, one of these math class, this physics class up top, you'd pay $500 at Brillion, at least right now that's the price. At Oshkosh, that class would cost you about $1,500, so you'd save about $1,000. You get a 2/3 or close to 70% discount on the CAP classes if you take them in that regard. Another way to get college credit in high school is something called advanced placement. Advanced placement is fairly simple, but it works different. Advanced placement is not connected to any specific college in particular. Advanced placement is a deal where you're taking a class that's designed to try to help you get college credit at most places. But what happens is at the end of the year, there's a fairly large exam. There's kind of a monster exam at the end of the year that you take. It's a national exam. Everybody in the whole country takes the same one. And if you score high enough on it, you get a chance to get college credit at a lot of colleges. Not every single college, but a lot of colleges, if you get that AP score on that test. So AP is all or nothing on that test if you're looking at college credit. Otherwise, it's simply a good, rigorous class to take to prep for college, and it's probably weighted as well. So down below that, we have classes that we have an agreement with Fox Valley Tech on. That's the third way to get college credit is these classes that you see listed on here have agreements with Fox Valley Tech. You get Brillion credit for most of them. You get Brillion, all the ones up here, you get Brillion credit and Fox Valley Tech credit simultaneously when you take that class. Now, there's a sweet deal that comes along with a couple of those classes. If you're looking forward, some of these classes you look, and if they're AG classes or Tech Ed classes, they'll count. They'll count at Fox Valley Tech, and they're good if you happen to go into a Fox Valley Tech program like that, because they'll be part of that program. Okay, then you have some general classes like chemistry here that might fall into a bunch of different programs because it's science. It's not a specific major like welding or something like that. So that may count a little bit more. But the sweet spot we found accidentally with a couple of these classes is we accidentally get a double transfer agreement to where these classes count at Fox Valley Tech, and then Fox Valley Tech made an agreement with some of the four-year universities to make the classes count at Fox Valley Tech and the university at the same time. So accidentally, our class becomes a Fox Valley Tech credit, which spirals up and becomes, say, UW Whitewater credit. So in a couple of these classes, particularly Chem and Marketing, Chem 2 and Marketing, if you take that class here, there's an okay chance that you can get some credit at the college level. That's a college by college call. Some will bite on that, some won't. But sometimes through a double transfer, very accidentally, somebody could take marketing here and get marketing credit at, like I said, say UW Whitewater or something like that. Kind of a sweet deal and very accidental, but again, a sweet deal nonetheless, and we'll take it. And the fourth way somebody can get college credit while they're still in high school, if that's interesting to you, is in foreign language, there's something called retroactive credit at the great majority of colleges. Not every single one, but the great majority. Retroactive credit means if you take a couple years here and then you go on and take foreign language at the collegiate level, and the class you start with at college is above their bottom class, what can happen is you'll get credit for the college class and every college foreign language class below that. So if you took Spanish 3 at college, say you went to UW-Madison and took their third Spanish class, when you pass it with a B, you get credit for that class and for Spanish 2 and for Spanish 1 at the same time. So you kind of get triple credit. And that's available at a lot of colleges. So those are some things that show up on there. Again, the very most important sheet that you're going to look at is probably simply the course offering sheet. Very, very simple process as far as scheduling, which is going to happen in late January, the last week of January. But you look at the course offering sheet, and it's going to lay out every course. There's a 9 by everything that a student could possibly take. So you can lay those out. There's some classes that you're going to have to take. We lay that out for the students, but it's also on the bottom. It's also on this page here. We'll tell you that they have to take science, they have to take English, they have to take math. They can't get away with that. They have to take the 4 academic areas and Phy Ed and health. So 10 of those 15 boxes will be filled with requirements. 5 will be the electives. One word of caution, I just want to be very honest with you as you go forth and pick your classes for freshman year, which students will do the last week of January. As you go forth and pick those classes, there is a decent chance that something you pick may not fit in your schedule. We offer a lot of stuff for a small school, but the trade-off for that is by offering a lot of stuff, sometimes by offering a bunch of things, they only fit into one spot on our schedule. So sometimes your classes have to fall perfect. So those boxes, when you pick classes, when incoming freshmen pick classes, if they pick 15 things to fill up those boxes, it very well could happen that 14 of them fit and 1 does not. Say you pick construction and chorus, and they happen to be the exact same hour, and that's the only hour for each of them. One of them is going to have to go, and we'll have to pick up replacement class for that. That's just part of the game. Odds are very good. It's very normal for an incoming freshman to pick 15 boxes worth of stuff, 15 half credits. 14 of them fit, 1 doesn't is the norm. Sometimes you get lucky and everything works. Sometimes you get unlucky and maybe 2 of those boxes in a terrible situation, even 3 don't work and you got to pick replacements. But usually about 14 out of 15 is the norm. So again, if you want to help your students with that, the information's all here. A few links will go home. A link with course descriptions of every single class will go home. Those course descriptions are also in Zello. So I think the students will have all the information they'll need. They'll get a couple preps even before they have to walk in and start picking. And this information is also, again, available for you as we're sending this screencast, the external link with all our course descriptions, and this curriculum supplement that you're looking at now with about 14 pages worth of information that can help you. So if you have any questions, you can contact, if you're in public, you can contact Mrs. Holmes, or you can contact myself in any way, shape, or form. Email is usually easiest for most people, certainly okay to call. But anyone, parochial, public, or whatever, email, call me. Public school people, Miss Holmes is right there. She's very good, so she can probably answer questions about as well as I can. So thank you very much. If you have questions, let us know. Hopefully this is a smooth process. I think it will be. Exciting to step into freshman year. Exciting to have one more group come in for us. So thanks again, and we'll see you. We'll hear from you when we hear from you. Thanks. This is Mr. Vandehei.